We're going to now demonstrate how to correctly lift a small dog from the floor onto a grooming surface, a bench or a table or the bath. The dog must be on a leash at all times. When you come down, you're going to come with the dog close to you, one hand under the chest, the other hand under the abdomen. Pick the dog up and hold it close to you, then standing up, keeping your back as straight as possible, and then placing the dog carefully onto the work surface, again grabbing the leash straight away to make sure that the dog doesn't leave the table. When we want to take the dog down off the table, it's the reverse process. So holding the dog correctly under the chest and to your side, a little on the side at your hip can also help you take the weight. And again, you want to take a step slightly away and keeping your back nice and straight, lower the dog to the floor, placing it carefully at your side. And again, I've still got hold of the leash. So here we would have a medium-sized dog that weighs just under 15 kilos. And we need to safely put her onto a table or a bath. Now there's two different ways that you can lift a dog like this. So I'll show you both ways, and it will depend on whether the dog is cooperative or not, and if the dog is healthy and in good shape. If the dog has any issues with its hind limbs at all, then you won't be asking the dog to go on the table halfway with an assisted lift. So for that method, we would hold the dog's two front paws and place them on the table, keeping tension on the leash, and then putting my hand here between the back legs and lifting the dog up, but trying to push the dog towards the table so that I'm not actually carrying the dog and placing it on the table. Good girl. So to get the dog off the table, it's really important that, again, we're holding the leash firmly so we have control and she can't leave before we're ready. And then I will place my hand one under the tummy and one around the chest, take the dog off and lower her to the floor with the dog coming down at my side. Good girl. So the second way of lifting a dog this size onto the table is to actually pick the dog up. To be able to do this, you obviously need to be able to handle this size of dog or this weight. So it'll be up to your individual capabilities, but I'll show you how that happens. Come on, darling. So try to, one hand under the abdomen, one hand around the chest, and try to hold the dog's weight, then stand up, place the dog on the table. Okay. As slow and controlled as you can, so that the dog doesn't get upset or panic. Good girl. So again, to get a large or medium-sized dog from the table or the bench back down to the floor safely, we don't want to ever let the dog jump itself. They could land awkwardly and hurt themselves. So I'll pat one hand under the abdomen, one hand around the chest, hold the dog at my side, and lower it to the floor, keeping my back as straight as possible. So mainly using my legs.
Okay, so now we are going to demonstrate our large dog or extra large dog two-man lift. So I'm going to ask my co-worker or my fellow student now to assist me to get this large dog up onto the table. We're going to kneel down. I am going to take the front end of the dog with my hand under the chest and my hand through the middle. My co-worker has got underneath the dog through the middle also and the rear end of the dog. And we're going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3, lifting up onto the table, keeping our back straight at all times. Keeping control of the dog's lead so that they cannot leave the table. To go down from the table, we're going to repeat the same process in reverse. 1, 2, 3, and down to the floor. Good girl. We can also do this as an assisted lift, asking the dog again to place their front legs up onto the table and taking the rear end if you don't have that fellow co-worker to give you a hand. Keeping control of the lead, pushing her weight through and keeping control. To go down to the floor, keeping control of the lead, one arm through the middle of the dog, underneath the chest, keeping my back straight and down to the floor. Good girl.
There's another method that we use to moving large dogs, both in and out of the bath or on and off the table, where lifting is going to be a big problem. And it's by using way of a lever or pulley type action. So using the leash with it quite firmly high up behind the dog's neck. So it needs to be correctly placed right behind the dog's ears. And you want to apply some tension to the dog's neck to move it forward. We're going to use the front legs and get them on the table. There we go, good girl. And then keeping the tension on the leash in a forward motion, I'm going to now get her at the base of the tail and just push. So when you hold the dog at the base of the tail, it creates an instinct for the dog to move forward. So the minute you touch them there, their instinct is to move forward. Holding tension on the leash at the neck also leads them in the right direction. So it means that you can move the dog without actually having to physically pick up or lift or carry the dog. And it will work on even the largest of breeds. Or if the dog has bad hind legs or poor hip control or poor muscles, then it's a way of moving those large breed of dogs using their own bodies without putting too much force on their hind legs. So to get the big dogs down in the same way, we're letting the dog come down to the floor using that pulley action. So keeping tension on the leash and leading the dog towards where we would like it to land. And we're using our other hand to support the dog's weight. So if you're a left-handed person, you'd just be using your opposite hands. Your left hand would lead the dog, your right hand would support the dog. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to show you the right-handed method. So I'm pulling the dog tension. I've got my left hand just under the body weight. I don't want to carry the dog's body weight at all. I simply want to guide the dog to the floor and just control her body so that she doesn't leap or jump or fall. So in summary, when lifting any size dog, be it small, medium, or large, it's very important that you know your own physical limitations and that you don't attempt to lift or carry a dog that you're not going to be comfortable with. You only have one spine. It needs to last you your whole life. So please look after it and use the appropriate methods of lifting and correctly placing the dog into the space you need to use. When you're holding a dog or need to attach a dog to a work surface for the purposes of an examination or a grooming procedure, is a couple of things you need to know about the types of leashes or restraints that are available to you. The most common is a leash such as this that is called a quick release or slip leash, and it's essentially a leash that you can use. It will fit any size dog. It can go quite tight though, so you need to be careful of where you place the dog, and also that the dog is supervised at all times whilst wearing one of these quick release leashes. Ideally, you just want to have the leash over the dog's head, coming at the dog from quite wide, and if you can, you want to come from behind the dog rather than towards the dog. A lot of dogs can get quite fearful when you come towards them this way. So if you can, approach the dog either from the side or from behind and place the leash over the head like that. You want to make sure that it's secure but not tight. We don't want the dog to be choked with one of these leashes. And another way of using these leads for purposes of restraining is to put one leg, a front leg, through that noose and then hold it like that. So now I've got the dog secured more around the chest and the body. So if you do have a dog with a sensitivity around the neck, or a young dog, a very old dog, then that is a better way of using this leash to maintain a good hold on the dog, but without any risk of injury to the neck. I can use this then to tie the dog up to a table or to the arm of the table, or you might be grooming the dog at home and want to tie it to some other piece of furniture. These leads are very user-friendly. In a grooming scenario, we also have these ones which have the ability to move or slide the adjustment up and down. So again, over the dog's head, placed correctly up high, right behind the dog's ears. It shouldn't be down low on the dog's low part of its neck. We want it to be up high, quite high. Secure but not tight. You want to be able to still fit 2 fingers through the back of the collar, and then you just attach that to that. So if the dog had to come away quickly, it's a quick slide and the dog is free. Okay, there's a couple of other different methods of restraints that you might need to use if you have a dog that's fussy, or it's having issues with different things being done, or it might be injured in some way and you need to apply a muzzle. There's a couple of different muzzle options, and the most popular would just be a cloth muzzle. Some of them might be open at the front. We use these ones because the dog can still breathe, but you can't get bitten. The best way to try and put a muzzle on, again, is to try and be behind the dog. Sometimes you might want to wrap the dog's body in a towel so you can keep them kind of snug and secure. And then if you can, with your fingers all tucked in and out of the way, that's very important, because when dogs are trying to bite, they will inevitably get your fingers. You want to try and get the muzzle, if you can, come from underneath. And we have a very compliant dog, but in some cases they're not compliant. You need to quickly place it over the dog's face and then get the strap over the back of the neck and click it into place. Now, when a muzzle is on a dog correctly, you don't want to see their eyes squished up. The muzzle shouldn't be touching their eyes or causing them any uncomfortable. They need to have space around their nose to be able to breathe. But you want to make sure that the whole muzzle on the face of the dog is well protected. That way we can do things like trim their toenails or brush their feet, or maybe examine them somewhere else that there's something that they've got that's quite sore, and just stay safe. The other type of muzzle which is quite popular is a little bit more rigid, so it's a lot more firm. This one's what we call the duck muzzle. It's made out of soft latex. It's another one that the dogs feel comfortable wearing. And again, it's over the nose and around and clicks together up behind the ears. I guess for the fact of people looking at the dog, they're not going to see something awful. They're actually going to see something that looks a little bit comical or funny. So Yeah, but again, it's protecting the dog's mouth so that they can't bite you and they can still breathe comfortably. Lastly, we would use or recommend, particularly for your dogs that have a very short nose, so what we call a brachycephalic breed, so pugs, Shih Tzus, Cavaliers, Boston Terriers, those dogs that it's very difficult to apply or keep a muzzle on their face to do certain procedures, or a dog that just gets very anxious or fearful or panics when you try to put a muzzle on and keep it there. In those cases that we would suggest you using an Elizabethan collar, and Elizabethan collars are found in most pet shops and vets, and they're great for a lot of different reasons. Easy to apply, so you just around the dog's neck, and different ways of attaching them here, but it just simply sticks together like that. We can easily keep a monitor of the dog's condition, but if I have to examine the dog or again trim toenails, they physically can't bite you and they don't feel as overwhelmed by the restrictions placed on them with, say, a normal muzzle. So those ones called an e-collar are quite popular and they can be used for a lot of different purposes to keep the groomer or the animal handler safe for different processes. So that's a few different ways of controlling and restraining a small dog. Those same ways that we've just demonstrated can work on any size dog. So to summarize the different types of restraints that you would need to have to control an animal for an examination or a grooming process, there's a few basic tools that you can have that will work on any size dog that you have to work on.
In addition to the muzzles and restraints we have already gone through, I'm going to show you two other methods just using your slip lead that we've already gone through or our quick release lead to create a muzzle. If perhaps in an emergency situation you didn't have access to a muzzle, you could create one just using a lead or a slip lead. To do this, you're going to slip the lead over the dog's mouth, wrap it around and over the back of the head, just like you would clip the muzzle at the back of the dog's head using your soft muzzle that we've already gone through. And then you could tie your lead at the back there. The other one that we can go through is creating a no-pull harness. This can be used as a training aid or again in an emergency situation where you were dealing with a dog that you didn't know that could be unpredictable if injured or hurt. To do this, we can slip the lead over the dog's neck, and then what I'm going to do is place the lead through the dog's body and then underneath that lead that I've put through the dog's body. This then creates a lead that tightens at the back end of the dog rather than around the neck. This can be handy when you've got even a dog that you're walking for a no-pull harness and quite inexpensive to use.